First thing, all the park people have always been very respectful, and I think they have a tough job. There is this issue about dog droppings. When we go down there, most of the people we see with dogs pick up other people's dog droppings. There are far more plastic bottles, broken beer bottles, food wrappers in that area than there are dog droppings. The park people have a tough job. One of the concerns, we're owners of rescue dogs, and over the last 10 years, conversations with retired veterinarian Gary Sargent, the Southwest Clinic, Dr. Martini, Dr. Rasmussen, discussions with the Animal Emergency Clinic today. Every week there are a number of dogs that are maimed or killed by coyotes. When we're in a dog park area with people, that's not a problem, particularly a fenced area. The same people, the veterinarians and emergency treatment, every week there are dogs killed and injured by automobiles. Dog parks address those issues. Talk to the Department of Wildlife. The coyote casualties with dogs is very high in the Truckee Meadows. They don't have numbers. So I support the idea of that area being an off-leash dog park. I further support the idea that it be fenced. And I ask us a question, well, first of all, in the 20 square mile area, west of Virginia and south of Moana Lane, there are no dog parks. And is it possible that there be a surcharge on dog licenses to put in more parks? Because the parks where they are, they're used. And the dog cleanup business, from my perspective, it is a problem. But again, can that be addressed with a surcharge on licenses to clean up, just like they do the plastic bottles and beer bottles and cigarette butts? Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other open public comments? Anything on the agenda or off the agenda?
You do have the option to give comment after we present the item, number 9, but if you need to leave early and you'd like to go now, you certainly can.
Yeah, when we get to that particular item, it might be helpful to be able to, if you have questions of staff or anything of that nature, it might be helpful to wait until that item comes up on the agenda. If it's off the agenda, now's the time to make them, or at the end of the meeting.
One, it's nice to be around dog lovers. Thank you. Appreciate that. Didn't expect it. I'm just here to introduce myself. I'm Lawrence McNutt, owner of the River Inn up on 4th Street. And we're going to be coming through some formal processes with the county parks. And I just wanted to say hi. I dropped a little really brief flyer and sticker on your desk. We've been looking at the Carciana-Canapa Ranch Parks Access Trail System. Again, just making you aware of this today. And we happen to be adjacent to those and own the 14 acres that connect the Reno trails to the Verdi trails. Mm-hmm. And we just love the idea of bringing that old building back into existence as a trail, access, equestrian, parking center. We have the restrooms. So we have a lot of infrastructure. So we're going to be submitting an unsolicited bid. And I simply wanted to come and introduce myself today. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for coming up and speaking. I appreciate it. Are there any other public comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the agenda then. Approval of the agenda for the Open Space and Regional Parks Commission meeting of November 1st, 2022.
Chair, I have a question on that. Are we allowed to swap agenda items? And I'm just wondering if we can swap 8 and 9, because I believe most people are here for number 9.
We can adjust. We can move it up. We can move it up to the front right now, if that's what you're suggesting. Is that your suggestion?
I guess that's my
Okay,
suggestion.
great.
I just, yeah.
Do we need a motion for that?
I don't.
I'm looking at legal counsel.
Lindsay Liddell, Deputy District Attorney for the record. I would recommend doing a motion with a conditional approval of the agenda because that is an action item on the agenda. So it sounds like Commissioner Joel's motion is to approve the agenda for the November 1st, 2022 meeting with the change that number 9 be moved up to number 5. Was that a correct restatement of your motion?
Yes, it could be number 5.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions from the other commissioners, comments? All right. All those in favor, please signify by.
And before you guys vote, I recommend
public
taking
comments.
public comment
Sorry.
on that.
Are there any public comments related to that motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We will now hear item 9. Item 9 is the final quarterly update of the off-leash dog pilot program, which allows off-leash dogs during certain hours in areas of North Valleys, Lazy 5, South Valleys, parks. This is going to be presented by Celia Walker, Park Ranger 2.
Hello, I'm Celia, Park Ranger, based out of Rancho San Rafael. And this is our last quarterly update and the year-end review here. So, just overview, last November 2021, we decided to create an off-leash opportunity during certain hours when soccer league use wasn't using certain athletic fields. And that was November through February. The reason we have 8 a.m. is that's the time that all of our parks open, is 8 a.m. So we have 8 a.m. to sunset, those are park hours. Every day during the soccer off-season, which is November through February, and then the same 3 fields had off-leash hours of 8 to 1 p.m., Monday through Friday, during soccer season of March through November. The 3 parks, like you said, were North Valleys, Lazy 5, and South Valleys. North Valleys are quarterly review since August. It's the flat field at the very end of Silver Lake Road. It's the 80 by 80 fully fenced soccer field. North Valleys has been really consistent at about 20 people per day. Since August to present, there's a regular group that meets there every morning. And we did not have any soccer games or anything on Sundays. And so there has been people using the fields with their dogs on Sundays. This past quarter, we have picked up 7 dog waste piles by staff. Garbage cans continue to be full of mostly dog waste. There was 1 call to Animal Services, an aggressive dog and aggressive owner. We refilled 11 boxes of the dog waste bags, which have 200 bags each. No damage reports. Some comments from the public that this field was cleaner than most other fields that don't allow dogs. So that was a good comment to hear. Lazy 5 Regional Park, it's the lower soccer field, surrounded now by a housing development and sagebrush next to the lower playground down there. And during this last quarter, average users were 15 people per day. 0 dog waste picked up by staff, which is great. No calls to Animal Services. Staff refilled 3 boxes of bags, 200 per box. Most people at Lazy 5 bring their own bags, which you're supposed to. 0 damage reports, and there are just regular users coming every day with their dogs. And we do want to publicize it more in Spanish Springs if it becomes a permanent feature. South Valleys is our third field. It's a lower soccer field between the library and the playground. It has fencing on 3 sides. The average users per day this last quarter were about 30 people. Due to smoke and very hot days, users went down a little bit. There were 33 warnings, interactions by staff during non-off-leash times, and staff picked up 9 dog waste piles. There was 1 call to animal services. That was just for off-leash in the rest of the park. 23 boxes of dog waste bags were replaced. And no damage reports. Lots of emails supporting the program and the network that is developed because of it. The Whites Creek Park, it was originally on the pilot program. There was some opposition to it, so we were just going to monitor it throughout the year. Staff continue to inform the public that dogs must be on leash at this park, and to educate them that South Valleys now has certain hours for off-leash dogs. Animal Services is unable to do any park patrols as of late down there. And we have received complaints of speeding vehicles and dogs off leash during soccer practice when kids are there. So here's the quarterly summary. Total average users per day for the 3 parks is 65 people plus their dog. The busiest field for all of the quarters has been South Valleys. Total number of dog bag boxes replaced is 37. 16 piles of dog waste were picked up by staff. No damage reports. 2 calls to animal services. And personal interactions have been 100% positive between staff and users. Sport leagues did complain twice at North Valleys about some dog waste left on the field during their games. I'm so glad it showed up on the PowerPoint. The chart just for the year-end totals. So we just did a summary for all the quarters for each park. So North Valleys, very consistent, about 20 users per day, which is 5,440 per year. And staff have picked up a total of 18 dog waste piles for the year. Total calls were 2 calls to animal services, 1 for off-leash in June, and 1 in September for the aggressive dog and owner. 38 total dog waste boxes were refilled, and that's a total of 7,600 dog waste bags. We've had 0 reports from maintenance staff or ranger staff from any damage on the field, or to our dispensers, or anything to do with the off-leash program. I've interacted with about 6 people during this whole time, during non-off-leash times. Lazy 5, on average 21 users per day, that's 5,712 per year. They've only picked up 3 piles on the field, so that's great. Only 1 call to animal services in June for a dog off leash in the rest of the park. 35 total dog waste boxes refilled, 7,000 dog waste bags. 0 reports again from maintenance or ranger staff of any damage. And 10 interactions total with users, mostly on the playground. So they're going to the playground and letting their dog run on the field. The South Valleys, per year, on average, it's been 40 users per day, 10,880 per year. 58 total dog waste piles picked up by staff. There's also 2 regular volunteers down there who are on poop patrol. 3 calls to animal services, 1 aggressive dog and 2 off leash. 55 total dog waste boxes refilled. That's 11,000 bags. 0 reports from maintenance or ranger staff for damage. And a total of 64 interactions with users during leak use times. The summary, this program's been very well received by the public. Majority of dog owners, they're very thankful to have an off-leash option for their dogs closer to home for a lot of people. Most users have been very respectful and followed the rules and clean up after their pet or someone else's. We have regular groups that meet each morning or in the evening at these fields. And, that contributes to a sense of ownership and community. I believe it's a positive addition. Speaking with maintenance, we might have to do a little bit of maintenance on the fields before soccer starts in the spring. And so we would post a closure just for maintenance on the fields like we do at Hidden Valley. But Parks recommends to pass the program in these 3 parks, North Valley, South Valleys, and Lazy 5.
Thank you, Celia. Before we get into public comments, I want to get any questions while you're standing up there for the commissioners. But first, I want to thank you for leading the pilot program. You did a great job. I know all the other park rangers and staff, maintenance staff, assisted with that effort. But thank you so much for everything you've done to make this successful in those parks.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions from the commissioners?
I do.
That's why I'm looking at you. Go ahead.
So first of all, good job, Celia, on putting this pilot program together. And I think, at least in my opinion, one of the reasons that it seemed to work really well is the signage that talked about, like, hey, this is a pilot program, don't screw it up.
Yeah.
And I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
If we make this permanent, what are the options if it does start to become a problem?
Yeah.
As far as like a quick reaction, I mean, when it was a pilot program, you guys would have had the ability to be like, hey, this isn't working, end of pilot program. So if we go ahead and approve it to be permanent, like, is a signage of that wording still going to be out there? And are those options still available to park staff to manage problems, to keep them from becoming bigger?
Yeah, so right now on the signage, in nice bold red lettering says this is a pilot program, please be respectful or this program can go away. I do want to keep the same wording on there. We will have a sticker over it saying it's not a pilot program anymore, since it's not, but it can go away. I mean, we have the power to enforce rules in the park if they're not being followed. So we have the hours on there, they're gonna be the same, and the rules have to be followed. Otherwise, animal services can get involved. Citation authority in the future, there will be consequences still.
Okay. And then my other question or comment, it was one thing kind of was pretty clear in a lot of the emailed public comments was the need for a specific dog park in the South Reno area. And I remember we went through a master plan update for South Valleys Regional Park. I thought it was a couple years ago, but I think it was actually like 2016, five years ago now.
Yeah.
And off the top of my head, I don't recall, was there a actual fenced dog park area approved as part of that master plan that has not yet been developed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Colleen is nodding yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so at some point in the future,
At
with
some point in the
funding
future, yes.
becomes available, that is slated to happen there. Okay.
And my only comment on that, the demand is there, the money isn't yet.
Right,
So
right.
it's a matter of having the funds adequate to develop something that would fit into the master plan that's already been approved.
Well, and I did like the gentleman's idea of the license You know, and I realize that's a animal services question, but
Yeah.
does anyone know off the top of their head how many licensed dogs we have in Washoe County?
I don't have the statistic number in my
Right.
head, no, but Animal Services does.
I guess, I mean, that's something we could have asked them if they want to do a survey and be like, hey, would you pay $2 extra to fund dog parks in the region?
Yeah, it's a good idea. And I will say, you know, the goal of this program is to, you know, spread the wealth over many areas, right? So not just these 3 fields get hit hard. So we will be bringing it up to other park districts just to see if they would be willing to add a few of their parks, Reno and Sparks, you know, if interested, to add a few more parks.
Cool, thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? Go ahead, Stephanie.
Okay. Okay, and I think maybe, I'm not sure if this is for staff or for you, Celia, maybe it's my understanding. So with this action item today and the motion, the possible motion that's included in our packets here, are we referring just to the 3 parks that were piloted, or in here it says various flat fields? So is this accounting for any Washoe County park that could become a dog park?
No, this is just for our
the
3
3.
fields that were part of the pilot program.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I guess in regards to the public comments, so I know a lot of the public comment is around Whites Creek Park. So is that another item that would come later on for consideration for that to become an official dog park, or what's the process there?
Well, first off, sorry, they're not dog parks.
No, I'm sorry. Excuse me,
I
sorry,
just
not-
want to clarify. Yeah, there's a big difference with dog parks and a field that just have off-leash hours. So that's what they are. But Whites Creek was not, you know, part of our approved 3 fields. And I don't believe that it can sustain all the more traffic and all the comments that we've received. You know, we take the feedback serious.
Okay.
And my daughter's played soccer down there before, and yeah, it's a neighborhood park. I know that.
And I guess that was just my check for understanding, because I know a lot of the public comment was around White Creeks Park, but I didn't know if that was an actual action item that we would have to be approving, because it wasn't part of the pilot. So
Yeah.
thank you for clarifying.
Sure.
And Commissioner Chen, this is Deputy District Attorney Lindsay Liddell. I wanted to clarify the way you mentioned it is pretty broad the way the item is written. So technically, if the commission wanted to kind of give that unilateral broad discretion to staff to choose different parks to open up to off-leash spaces at their discretion, the way the agenda is worded, you could do that. It sounds as though staff's recommendation, though, is to limit it to the 3 existing parks. So do with that what you will.
At the same time, within the ordinances that the county has for park services, they could look at off-leash areas in any park, really. What they're recommending is that we look at these 3 parks as off-leash parks based on the results from the pilot program, and the resulting recommendation to the commission is to get some kind of approval to go forward with those 3 parks on a regular basis. But under the guidelines of the ordinance, certainly staff has the authority to discontinue or continue depending upon how well or not it's going, correct?
That's correct,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. Any other comments from commissioners? I'm looking at the television screen. I don't see any. All right, thank you, Celia.
Thank you.
I will open it up now to public comments.
I'll call names from the cards we received, and we have people waiting on Zoom as well, so just a reminder on Zoom to use the raise hand icon if you'd like to speak, but we'll start with the people in the room with us today, but I also want to read the names of people that submitted email comment, and just make a note that these email comments were sent to all of the commissioners. They also have them in front of them, the people that are in person, and they've all been posted on our website, WashoeCountyParks.com, under the Park Commission tab, you can view a PDF that has all of these comments that are submitted. And the names are Ben Horgan, Cynthia Reed, Elena Schulman, Jean Held, John Greco, John Sagebeal, Mrs. K. Openlander, Robin Dune, Vicky LaRove, Erica Christoph, and Cottrell Van Cleve. And we'll start public comment with Cynthia Reed. There's a timer for 3 minutes.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? I've never done this before, so. I'm Cynthia Reed. I've lived in Nevada most of my life, 20 years in the Galena Country Estates area. I'm a retired teacher and one of 5 HOA board members, and all of us have dogs. All of us have used the Whites Creek Park, and all of us were thrilled that the park is experimenting with opening of the South Valley's athletic fields to off-leash dogs. Thank you so much. But not all dogs can be unleashed in that wide open area. And I'm over there, you know, every day during the week with my dogs. And I have one dog, and specifically that we have to put her on a 100-foot lead. And otherwise, she's all over, clear down to Reno eyes. Anyway, I'm gonna go blank. Let's see. Anyway, not all the dogs can be in those off-leash areas. Also, working people do not have access to these off-leash areas except in the winter months. And many retired people like myself like to walk to our neighborhood park to save money on gas and just get exercise, plus throw the ball to our dogs. And I go to Whites Creek Park, and there's nobody there, from 8 to 4 during the school year. And I'm being stopped by the ranger. So I would please open some other areas to help reduce the stress on our very limited access to fenced dog parks in Washoe County. Whites Creek Park is fenced. It's been there since 1985, 37 years. And it's been used as an off-leash dog park, non-official. And it needs to be like the Village Green, where maybe people could use it every morning, every day of the week for an off-leash dog park. And then we can send in, you know, we can have a crew of volunteers come in and pick up for those people that missed something. I know there were some concerns last year, and I could not get to that meeting. One was possible traffic if you wanted to make Whites Creek Park an off-leash park and try that. My observation in 20 years, people who drive in to exercise their dog in the park, there's usually 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 cars, and then they leave, and then somebody else comes in. Sports people, when they come, everything, all parking's used up. Dog people are walking in from the immediate area. There was a concern about speed. Am I already out?
Yes.
So I get to finish later?
Sorry.
Thank you for your comments.
Rod Turner.
Hello. I'm here to oppose the idea of a dog park for Whites Creek. It's a good neighborhood park. I've tried to take my kids out there for a little bit of catching, hitting fly balls with my grandson, and it was almost impossible because of all the dog waste. I've tried to fly kites out there, and the same problem then. It's a good neighborhood park, and with as much public land in Nevada, I don't know why we need to take land away from property taxpayers to provide room for a dog park. So I'm against the Whites Creek idea of a dog park. So thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Jason Klein.
Hi, everybody. I live in the North Valleys. I use the dog park up there pretty regularly. There's an apartment complex up there. It's specifically for dogs, and it's the only off-leash area in like 10-mile radius. So it's pretty important as far as not adding like hours onto your day to just take your dog out. It's nice having it right down the road. So I just wanted to mention the scarcity up there in the North Valleys. There's not a lot of options to let your dog run in a safe place. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Dave Davis.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for the efforts that are being made to expand the opportunities for people to go out and exercise their dogs in a way different than walking them on the street, which I do quite often now because I've been 86th from my neighborhood park, which is White's Creek. I do go down to South Valleys as much as I can, so thank you very much for that. I hope that continues. The only comment I'll make about South Valleys is that I'm there virtually every weekday morning now since I was 86th from White's Creek. And a comment was made about the need for maintenance, and I'm not here to speak contra to that need, but I've been very interested to see what the wear and tear on the grass surface would be and has been in my observation. And I really don't notice any. I'm not an expert, but I'm down there and I walk across the areas where the soccer teams play, and there are very obvious dirt areas caused by that. But let me get to White's Creek. I live at 2525 Telluride. I'm sorry. Where do I live? Deer Valley. Deer Valley, which is a half block from the park. And I am very interested in the usage of the park, and I can drive to the old cul-de-sac or walk there in about 2 minutes and look. And I concur with an earlier person that the park is basically not used during the day, other than people who are not obeying the rules and taking their dogs there anyway, or in the afternoons after school for soccer leagues and other organized activities. The park is not being overrun, but it is still being used by people who take their dogs there. And as far as the dog poop is concerned, my experience, and I have been there many, many times, is that yes, sometimes there are bad dog owners. Sometimes there are inattentive dog owners. But those of us who have a real interest in seeing White's Creek be open to off-leash dog use, we clean it up. And I, in my experience, have never seen multiple piles of dog poop left there at any given time. I was encouraged by the empirical data that shows the progressive, what it seemed to be improvement at South Valleys for fewer and fewer dog piles that need to be picked up by others. In terms of traffic, I can look right out my front window, I can be in my driveway, I can be just generally around at my residence, and I see people who are taking dogs to the park. I don't observe a general speeding issue. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Lynette Davis.
Good afternoon. I also live in the Galena Country Estates area, and we have a dog that we took up there quite regularly off-leash until they really started to enforce the off-leash issue, which we have respected. There are people that are not respecting that, and they are going up there anyway. But we respected it, went down to South Valleys. It is just a very good program that they have going on down there. So I am hoping that that is a continuation of that program. But I am also in favor of opening White's Creek to a trial, just as South Valleys was. It's a beautiful little neighborhood park, and now there's no one there. If people want to go up and play with their kids, if there's designated times, I'm all for that. I have a 2-year-old grandson that I take up to the park. We don't go over in the grassy area. There's not much to do there. I guess maybe when he's older, like flying kites or whatever. But now we play on the playground equipment. It would be wonderful if this park could be used. It's a neighborhood park. They talked about the sense of community. It's very important in our neighborhood just to get to know people. We go up there, we see the same people, we speak to them, we know their names, their dog names. We come out of our houses and we go to the park. So I am very much in favor of opening White's Creek to a trial situation like South Parks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christy Horgan.
Hi, my name is Christy Horgan, and my husband wrote a letter in, so you might have seen that. It was very long and detailed about why we oppose any kind of off-leash hours at White's Creek Park. I am totally supportive of South Valleys. It's only 1.7 miles from White's Creek Park, so I feel it's not really a big imposition for people to have to go use that park. I do think kids do use that park more regularly than is being said to you. My husband is a soccer coach. He regularly picks up multiple piles of poop when he goes up there to coach our kids and other kids. It is in a little, the entrance is in a little cul-de-sac where many families live. I see children playing out there all the time. I don't think increased traffic will be safe. So I just think there's a lot of consideration around it, and I really don't feel like it is an appropriate park to, advertise on a Washoe County website that has off-leash hours, because that will for sure increase the traffic. As you can see from the data, South Valleys is the most used of, the parks in the pilot program. I really believe that if the master plan for that South Valleys Park includes a dog park and there's so much need, that is really the way to go. Dedicated space for pet owners is the way to go. Not to use a nice community park that kids like to use, that's clean. I mean, dogs don't just leave waste, that's poop, they leave pee, they leave, even if you pick up poop, residue is still in the grass. It's really just not clean and nice place to go when you're fearful that you don't know what bomb you're gonna run into next up there. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure I could be here because I know lots of neighbors that oppose it, but they can't be here, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Steve Baker.
Good afternoon. Name is Richard Foncold. I live in the North Valleys. I really want to thank you for opening up that park to off-leash for dogs. We were really underserved in that capacity up there. However, I would like to say that I would like it to be opened all the time. The restrictions on during the soccer team, during the soccer season, is that field is really underutilized as far as soccer. It's a fairly new field. The old fields are very large and a lot of space and a lot of nets up. And these lower fields, very, very little used for soccer. So if you could take off that restriction during a certain time of the year, it would be appreciated. Because up in the North Valleys, we have no other place for off-leash dogs. And as far as the people up there, they're very friendly. There's been no problems at all. It's fairly clean. Once in a while, you'll see some dog droppings that have not been picked up, but for the most part, most people are respectful, and I really appreciate that park up there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Steve, do you want to come up now?
Sure.
Thank you.
The real Steve Baker's going to come up.
It is Halloween.
Yeah. Commissioners, thank you. I'm Steve Baker. I live in South Reno, and I'm here to speak in favor of the pilot program, especially at South Valleys. That's where I go. I think the program ties directly to your mission statement, right? It's up there on the wall about providing a safe, secure, and healthy community. And I would underline the word community. It's more than just the dogs. I have met so many wonderful people and gotten to know others in the community. We're starting to do things outside of dog play, getting together for coffee or for a meal or something. And to me, it's just added a sense of vibrancy to the community, which I think is very important. So I'm hugely in favor of continuing the program. Also in favor of stern wording, right? Because we don't want people to be lackadaisical about the policing of their dogs. I'm not sure if I'm one of the poop volunteers. Kind of weird to talk about poop to the commissioners, but the dog waste volunteers. But I have kept a log, which I have sent to Andy Brown and Denise Evans, I believe it was. So I printed 3 copies for you if you're interested. And it's weekly summaries from March until this past week of how many dog waste I've picked up myself outside. Usually the number is 0 or 1 outside of my dog. And this is not only going at various times in the morning with my dog, but after I drop her off, I will oftentimes come back to the park, jog and exercise on the field. And I'm a BYOB, bring your own bag, so I typically have it with me. But I think everyone has just been wonderful and conscientious, and I would absolutely support the continuing of the program. So thank you. I'll drop these off with her if you're interested.
Thank you for the comments and for your help.
Thank you, Steve. I was confused, yeah. Julie Diaz?
Hi there, my name's Julie. I go to the South Valleys Provisional Dog Park. I also go to the Hidden Valley Dog Park on the weekends, which I also love. But I just want to thank you. I didn't know coming here if I'd have to advocate for the provisional program, but it sounds like based on what Celia shared that it's good to go, and I'm just so happy because it's amazing. It's an amazing gift to our community, what Mr. Baker said about it creating friendships for people. It's just a real gift. So thank you for doing it, and I'll do anything I can to help keep it going. Thanks.
Thank you.
Rhonda DeGarmo?
Hi, I'm Rhonda DeGarmo. I'm actually one of the official pooper picker-uppers. Andy scooped me up and said, hey, why don't you volunteer? So I filled out the application. So I'm pretty much there every day with my golden doodle, who's smart and goofy. It's amazing to see like up to 20 dogs all get along. Everybody knows all the dogs' names, but we don't know the adult names, but we do make friends, and, oh, you're so-and-so's mom or dad or whatever. It's a wonderful place. We love it. I find that I do pick up more soccer trash than poop. Right now, poop is hard to pick up because they aerated the grass. The whole soccer field looks like dog poop. And it's very difficult to distinguish between the aerated dirt and the dog poop, but we're all trying. And I know that people that don't volunteer are picking up other people's dog poops. And we are bring your own dog bags. So I like to bring my own because the neighborhood I have, they're free too. So we do that. We love the program. We would like to know if there's anything at all we can do as dog owners to expedite the phase 3 of getting the dog park between the ice rink and the library. Volunteer, fundraising, I don't know. We would all love to see that happen. So if there's anything that we could do as dog owners, we would love to get that going. And if it's to add more money to dog licenses, we'd appreciate that. And we love the park. Thank you so much. It's a great program.
Thank you very much. Thanks for volunteering.
Is there anyone else in chambers that didn't get a chance to fill out a card to speak that wanted to speak? Jaime? Is it? You can, Jaime Aranda? Go ahead, thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm here again. I was here last year to oppose the use of White's Creek as a off-leash dog park. First of all, it's a very small park. Second of all, the traffic in our neighborhood. I happen to live on Stowe Drive, and I see people swimming by, going to the park in the morning to get their dogs, even in the evening as well. I'm also a board member of our HOA, and we pay for the maintenance of the park. And I just feel that we should have the right to be able to have a say whether we want the park to be announced to all the public. Now, we're not saying we don't want people to bring their dogs. That's fine. We just don't want to be advertised to everybody so that we have a congested traffic going on. And so I oppose the park. I'm also a soccer coach, and I have picked up a lot of poops with my little grandkids. They're 5 and 6 years old. So it is a small park, and I don't think it's right to have everybody in the community go over there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Aaron Geisel, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Geisels, resident of Galena Country Estates. I'm here to support the possible use of Whites Creek Park as a time-restricted dog park. I was there this morning, and I saw bags tied to the fence. Nobody else was there. I have a 100-pound German Shepherd, and he is intimidating to lots of dog owners at the South Valleys area. So he's not really welcome down there. So it's one of the small places that I can go in my own neighborhood to exercise my dog. Northern Nevada is extremely populated and getting more so every day. When you have a big aggressive dog, there are limited places to go. I pick up after my dog, I exercise him, I get him out, I'm respectful for my neighborhood. As far as the traffic goes, nobody else is there. When you're going to exercise your dog, usually not in a hurry, because you're gonna spend 10 minutes to 50 minutes exercising your dog, not really in a hurry. Soccer teams, they're on schedules. That they're after school. That's when kids are at home. That's when they're playing in the courts, on the streets. In the middle of the day when kids are in school, there's no children on the street. No one's speeding through their own neighborhood to go exercise their dog. But after school, that's a different story. No one's saying we can't have soccer fields and soccer practices. That's fantastic. But we all need to share the park. It is a closed-in area in our own neighborhood, and with South Valleys open, there is no reason anybody from outside our neighborhood tends to use that park. When I go up there, it's all people from my neighborhood. So with that, I'm going to leave you. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm complete.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any more, Denise?
Just double checking, did we catch everyone in chambers that wants to speak? Okay. We do have some by Zoom. So
Okay.
again, please use the raise your hand icon if you'd like to speak, and I will give you permission through Zoom. We'll start with Erica Anderson. And again, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Erica Anderson. I live in the North Valleys, and I just wanted to express my support for the dog park in the North Valleys. I really appreciate it. My husband really appreciates it, and it's just so great to have a space for our dogs that's nearby. And I really hope that you'll be able to continue it. It's been great meeting to neighbors, and I'm just excited to hear all the other support. Thank you.
Thank you.
William Gardner.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is William Gardner. My wife and I are South Reno residents. We have been Nevada residents, Reno residents our whole life. We're here to speak in support of the pilot program at the South Valleys Regional Park. We use the park regularly. We found the pilot program to be fantastic. Most of the time, certainly when there's no soccer going on or when there's bad weather like this morning or midweek or wintertime, the park seems to be underutilized, which is, to me, a bit problematic when we all contribute to, the county coffers for many of the things that we support. But the unutilized park, the void seems to have been filled by this regional, this pilot program, rather. The people there have been great for the most part, and most dog owners are responsible. The time and use restrictions seem to really, really provide a nice hand-in-hand use of the park with the soccer park, the soccer players, and the soccer practicing. Most dog owners we've been there are clean. I think the legitimate complaints that people have raised about not picking up dog waste, especially dog crap, are legitimate. It's not a problem, but certainly there's, as I think as Mr. Davis characterized it, either inattentive or irresponsible dog owners. When my wife and I go, we pick up after our dogs all the time, and we make a point of picking up other dog poop as well. Wear and tear primarily comes on the park from the primary use, which is soccer, and that's what you can expect. I don't think the park at South Valleys is really not that busy compared to something like the Link Piazza Park. There seems to be just a handful of owners there. Most of the use comes in the summertime, in the morning, and most of the people I've encountered have been fantastic. I think it's a great way to share the use of the parks. They're primarily there for soccer. Restrict the time and use of the park to non-soccer activities. I was out there this morning. There was nobody in the park during midweek and when the weather's bad. So it seems to be a really good use. I appreciate the county going out of their way to make this effort. We all live here. We all want to use the parks in different ways. And I think the way you've set it up has been really a nice fit between the soccer users, the children that go to the park, and the dog owners. So I appreciate and support the pilot program. I can't speak to the Whites Creek Park. I haven't been up there, but I really would encourage the county to take use of these underutilized parks at times with time and use restrictions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Larry Crapo?
Hello, this is Larry Crapo. Thank you for listening. I am the president of the HOA in Galena Country Estates, and I also live on the cul-de-sac right at the edge of that park. We have 5 board members on our HOA. All 5 are dog owners, and we voted 4-1 against having this park in our community. We have South Valleys Park, which we're grateful for. It is less than 2 miles away from Whites Creek Park at this time, and it is in a very different scenario location-wise than ours. Ours is in the middle of a residential area with very narrow streets and on cul-de-sacs. And so I've been over to that park many times since I live right next to it. There is a lot of dog debris all over the place all the time. The fact that we don't have a lot of traffic in there except for soccer now would definitely change if this shows up as a dog park on Google. And so I want to say, as Jaime mentioned earlier, who's also one of our board members, we pay a considerable amount of money from our community, from our HOA fees every year to the county for park maintenance. And I got to believe that if that suddenly becomes a dog park, that fee would increase for us. And so I just wanted to make that case that we and most of my neighbors are against it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pam?
Pam, are you there?
Michelle?
Yes, thank you. My name is Michelle Cifelli, and I'm a resident in Damani Ranch. And we currently use the South Valley Library pilot program dog park. It is fantastic. And we have had opportunity before to talk to one of the park rangers. And his only complaint was that sometimes the maintenance people had complained that there was people there with their dogs before the 8:00 a.m. start time. So I think kind of between all of us, we've spread the word throughout, and I don't think that'll be happening, although we have seen times when maintenance has been there, like at 10 o'clock, trying to trim the grass, and all of us with dogs keep our dogs away because he's got this big, heavy machinery. Anyway, we wouldn't want to be throwing balls or having our dogs near it. But it's just been a fabulous program to have down in the South Reno area, like other people have commented before, it's been a great sense of community where like-minded people with friendly dogs, we've all met. I don't think there has ever been an incident yet with any aggressive dogs there. And everybody just kind of looks out for everybody, says hello, good morning. Everybody picks up, and I know there are some official pooper, scooper people that are doing a fantastic job, but I think we all try to, because we want to keep this pilot program still going, pick up our own dog waste, and if we see other, we do pick up also. It's been a little bit more difficult recently with it being aerated, kind of deciphering what's poop and not, but you know, we're all doing our best that we can, because it is such a great, fantastic place, and there isn't really any place like it. Cyan Park is a small dog park, and unfortunately, the sod there has been ruined, so it's exposed netting, so dogs can cut their foot pads and stuff. So South Valley's pilot program has just been a godsend, and I hope the council really takes into consideration that everybody here in the neighborhood and community has appreciated them starting this pilot program and are really hoping to continue it and keep supporting Parks and Recs and open space and doing our best to prove that we are good dog owners and caring, and also caring for our parks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pam, do you want to try again? Looks like you're still muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. I originally submitted, my name, by the way, is Pamela Ganger, and I am the treasurer on the Galena Country Estates Homeowners Association. I did submit some comments via email. However, it seems like they didn't get to you. I emailed them to Colleen. But anyway, I'll go ahead and just get started anyhow. I can tell you that we contribute, our HOA contributes about $8,000 annually to the maintenance of Whites Creek Park. I am a dog owner and I love dogs. I also have 2 children, and I use and have used the park in the past, and I still use it currently with my children. I did just recently go up there a few days ago, and I personally picked up 3 piles of dog poop that did not belong to my own dog. I don't have a problem with the pilot program as it pertains to the larger regional parks that have a lot of space, but I do object to having an off-leash program for Whites Creek Park because it's such a small park, and it really is tucked away in just a corner of our neighborhood. I understand that, you know, people in our neighborhood want an area for, you know, to be able to run their dogs. And I'd like to think that there could be other options. We could potentially fence in other areas of the park for dog use. But even still, I think that having an off-leash program for this type of park is just not a great idea because it is such a small, tiny little park tucked away in the middle of a neighborhood. And this presents some problems such as traffic, parking, you know, we just, I think, you know, as I mentioned before, dog poop is a problem with this park, and I just think that there's probably better options for dog use at this park. anyhow, I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling here at the moment, but I was looking for my other comments that I emailed and I could not find them. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Pam.
And Pam, if you want to re-email those comments, I can still attach them to the public record.
Thank you.
Tina Petty?
Hi, my name is Tina Petty. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for taking the call. I live in South Reno, and my husband and I utilize the South Valley's dog park almost every day. We have 2 dogs, and we have met a lot of wonderful people, and our dogs have gotten to know a lot of wonderful dogs during the time period. So I appreciate you guys considering making this a permanent program and not just a pilot program. One of the things that I've also been to the Whites Creek Park, and it is a beautiful park as well. The only thing that I'm hoping that you'll consider is, I know that from November through November through February, it's completely open on weekends and evenings and in the afternoon, and that is extremely beneficial. But I'm also hoping that if you're not considering opening it between after 1 p.m. And Monday through Friday, and then also on the weekends from March through October, that you'll consider somewhere else in that area of town. So maybe if not opening up Whites Creek for the full time period, and just designating that for those months, then it would be really helpful for those of us who don't necessarily want to drive all the way to Cyan because of the issues with they're just having no grass at Cyan. And then Hidden Valley is a 30-minute drive away for anybody that's on the south end of town. So any consideration that you guys could provide for what to do between March 1st and November 1st in the afternoons and weekends for a secondary designated dog park area would be really helpful and beneficial to us. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else on Zoom? Just go ahead and click the raise hand icon if you'd like to speak. I think that's it for public comment.
Okay, thank you. We'll bring it back to the commission. I do want to make a comment, though, just as a clarification. The dedicated dog park at Link Piazza out in Hidden Valley and the one at Cyan are dog parks. What we're talking about is an off-leash, approved off-leash area during specific times of the day. So they're not dog parks. I want to make that clear so everybody understands that we have not gotten to that point or do have the funding for dog parks that are currently identified in our master plan. However, I will state this. Link Piazza was very generous in donating money to build a dog park up at Hidden Valley. If there's anybody out there that's like-minded that would like to come forward and dedicate funds for that purpose at any of the parks that we have master planned for a dog park, then please contact staff and we'll certainly entertain that suggestion. With that, I'll bring it to the commission. Any other comments?
Well, I guess, my comment, I mean, to me, it makes a lot of sense to utilize an area as much as possible. So if there's times when, for example, Whites Creek is not being used and there are residents locally that don't want to load their dog up in their car and drive to the nearest off-leash area, it makes sense from a recreational standpoint to allow that use. But I also don't think it's necessarily our purview to open up a neighborhood park, and I realize like all of Washoe County parks are considered regional parks, but that's really a neighborhood park, and I think that we should take the input of like the HOA on what their desires are for Whites Creek. You know, in a perfect world, we'd have off-street pedestrian access to all of our regional parks from every neighborhood, you know, that you could easily walk your dog to a regional park or walk your kids, you know, to play on the fields there, play on the playgrounds, to let the dogs run free, and not have to deal with the risk of being run over by traffic, you know, walking on a shoulder or on a sidewalk right next to the traffic lanes. But we don't have that. It's not a perfect world. The ship has sailed on so many of the potential solutions that we have to our quality of life issues that deal with recreation and recreational access. But it certainly does make sense to me to complete the pilot program or approve the pilot program to be permanent, however that was worded. And leave the lines of communication open, I think particularly with the Galena Country Estates HOA, and presumably you, Celia, if you're the point person on that. And if there is a desire from the HOA as a collective group, you know, to say, hey, we'd like to allow dogs during the non-soccer season, or some kind of trial basis, like I'd sure like to see that happen.
Thank you. Other comments from commissioners?
This is Commissioner Dake. I wanted to clarify, you know, back to your comment, Doug. This is these parks are shared by a number of different organizations and the county public, but the off leash versus dog park. Now, a question I had, and maybe this is best posed to Park Ranger Celia Walker. Are dogs allowed on leash at say Whites Creek and other parks? Is there a limitation on what leashed dogs can do? And these three success stories with North Valley, Lazy Five, and South Valley Park, those are just experiments with the off-leash dog situation. Am I correct there that these parks and other parks allow dogs anytime the park is open as long as they are on a leash?
Yes, dogs are welcome at the parks on leash, except of course if on the field, soccer leagues have these reserved, or sports have these fields reserved a certain time of day. So dogs or anyone else is not allowed on the fields during the time that they're reserved. That's why we had the 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. during the week, since leagues don't have the fields reserved during those times. But dogs are welcome in the parks on leash at other times.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, commissioners? Stephanie?
Okay, thank you, everyone. I want to acknowledge all of the comments. Thank you, everyone, for taking your time to share your thoughts. I guess I just have some things that I'm thinking about and from everything that I've heard. So it sounds like White Creek's now, it's, you know, there are residents, individuals bringing dogs there, although it's not an off-leash area. But then I'm also hearing that there might be a compromise where maybe the space can be used as a time-restricted off-leash areas, maybe during school hours, you know, and certainly during times where there's not practices and whatnot. And I guess I'm just curious, you know, between the Galena State HOA and then those that are in favor of wanting to have some designated off-leash areas, you know, what compromises could be done? Could HOA identify volunteers, or if the concern, I mean, I think I'm hearing both ends from, you know, those in support, those in opposition, and going back to some comments that it is a shared space, and, you know, I'd hate for the space to not be used during school hours because it's not a designated off-leash area. So just wanted to throw that out there if, you know, the conversations can continue, because I think there is opportunity if, and certainly I don't live in that area, but I think, you know, hearing from the public comments for those in support and those in opposition, could there be some common ground to share the space and pilot a time-restricted off-leash area during the school hours and non-sporting events?
Thank you. Other comments from commissioners? I just have a couple then that I'll add. I think the going way back, Rancho Santa Fe was an experiment, and it proved to be a great experiment. It worked. Off-leash out there is very popular. It has worked for the county, and it's worked for the people living in the county, and I think it's been very, very beneficial to dog owners from across the county, because I know people come from all over to utilize that large open space pasture area. So this experiment, the pilot program at the larger regional parks, I think is, in my opinion, is another success. It's been very popular. People utilize it. It's got its challenges. Anything like this will have its challenges, but I think it's a challenge worth taking and moving forward with. I don't believe, however, that neighborhood parks are parks that should be utilized as off-leash areas because of the nature of their parks. They usually have smaller playgrounds in them. They usually have smaller grass areas. I know Whites Creek does have a athletic field there. It's fenced in. It's not as large as South Valley's, but given the fact that South Valley's is only 1.2 miles, somebody said, away, I think it gives everybody the ability in that area to utilize that park as well. Hopefully we can get to the point where we have funding to take advantage of the hard work that was done in the master planning process and build more facilities. Dogs are a part of everybody's life, and I think it's something that we can improve upon in terms of providing facilities that accommodate the dog owners and their family, their pets. With that being said, I will entertain a motion. There is a motion, not a motion, but there's a recommendation from staff on a motion that utilizes the ability to look at all flat fields as potential uses if the need or the ability to utilize those arises. So it's not specific to just the 3 parks.
That's correct.
Oh, can I get a motion, or do we have a motion?
So do we, I guess, how do we say that?
Well, I think as written is let me read what's written for everybody in the audience. Recommend that staff move forward with an off-leash dog program utilizing various flat fields throughout Washoe County parks as off-leash areas during non-league use times. I think that provides flexibility to the staff. I think it's up to staff to manage those facilities, and it provides a lot of latitude in terms of what they can and cannot do.
So basically, that's moving forward on the 3 pilot programs to make them permanent, and then it allows staff to continue with any other Washoe County park that has a flat field, if there's community interest in sharing that space, to pursue that.
That's how I read it, yes.
Works for me.
Is that your motion?
Well, I think you made the motion, so I'll second. Does that work?
That's fine. My reading was a motion that you accept.
Yeah, Chair
Council.
Doolittle, if you want to clarify for the record that your reading was in fact a motion, that is certainly okay.
Okay, that was the motion.
And I will second.
Any other comments, commissioners, on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all very much for coming and providing your comments. They're very helpful. The written comments as well. Those of you that are listening on Zoom, thanks for plugging into Zoom. It's a great way to participate without having to be here, so thanks. Okay, I'll get back to where I was. Okay. We're back to item 5, which is approval of minutes for the Open Space and Regional Parks Commission meeting of September 6, 2022.
I'll move that we approve the minutes for September 6th.
I'll second.
Are there any public comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries. Item 6, acknowledgement and recognition of park operations staff. I was told before the meeting that there's no recognitions to occur. Also on item 7, Eagle Scout presentation. No presentation to be made this particular time, so we'll move on to item 8, presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation Board of County Commissioners to approve an agreement with the Biggest Little Trail Stewardship for the construction and maintenance of trails within Washoe County Open Space and Regional Park System. And Colleen is going to provide that presentation.
Yes, thank
Chair
you.
Doolittle.
Oh.
Commissioner Joel, I'm a member of this organization, past board member, and continue to do both volunteer work as well as they have used my company for services. So I will be abstaining from a vote on this item.
Thank you.
Okay.
Carry on.
Thank you. For the record, Colleen Wallace Barnum, Park Operations Superintendent. So today I have Curtis Johnson with me. He is the president of the Biggest Little Trail Stewardship, and I'll call it BLTS. And today we would like to formalize an arrangement that we've had for many years, and really just have an agreement to be able to have Biggest Little Trail Stewardship help us with the maintenance construction of many of our trails throughout the county. So in the staff report, I had some comments about the Washoe County has 167 miles of trail. And that's, it's really between our open space parcels, our trailheads, and our regional parks. In the approved 2019 Parks Master Plan, hiking trails were considered the facility that Washoe County residents use most, and that connecting parks with trails and trailheads was considered one of our top 4 priorities of that plan. With the addition of our new Trails Program Coordinator, Christina Thayer, who is also here today, we feel that it is the right time to formalize this agreement, and the need for the maintenance of our existing trails and development and construction of new trails is on the forefront of our park and open space planning efforts. We have several park master plans that have been approved recently, in addition to several coming to this commission in the next year or two. And trails are absolutely a part of that conversation in every one of our master plan updates. So I just wanted to give a background on Biggest Little Trail Stewardship. So let's start here. Okay. So Biggest Little Trail Stewardship, BLTS, it was formerly Podunk, so many people may know them as Podunks formerly. They've been a nonprofit trail organization in the region since 2007. Originally, they focused mostly just on construction of trails and maintenance on the Peavine Mountain. The name change took place in 2016 as the group expanded their trail interests outside of the Peavine Mountain area. They're also an International Mountain Bike Association member chapter since 2017. Some of you might know that as IMBA. The mission of Biggest Little Trail Stewardship is to build, maintain, and advocate for sustainable trails throughout the greater Reno community. Some of their goals, to be a model trail building organization and IMBA chapter, to maintain a healthy, honest relationship with land managers, seek approval for new trails, build a trail network all the way around Peavine Mountain, improve the connectivity of the Reno area's trails and trailheads, connect to other regional trail networks in Nevada and California, provide trail signage and electronic mapping, support local bike parks, and assist other trail groups and community organizations. So as I mentioned previously, Christina Thayer, our new Trails Program Coordinator, started in March, and is very involved in the trails community locally and has been for several years. She came to us from the Tahoe Donner area, and she was kind of asked when she started, hey, what are the volunteer trail organizations? Tell me where they are. Tell me who I need to connect with. And it is Biggest Little Trail Stewardship. And so they've had many conversations over the past several months. And we have lots of needs throughout our parks, and we would like to work closely with Biggest Little Trail Stewardship on everything from trail design, construction, repair, and maintenance needs throughout our county trail system. So I would like to introduce Curtis Johnson. He's the president, and like I said, he will do a presentation really just more in depth on who BLTS is and what they've accomplished over the past 15 years. Thanks, Curtis. Okay, your presentation will come up in a moment.
Okay, thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. We've been trying to get an agreement with Washoe County for years and years, and Commissioner Joel has helped work with that too. And through Colleen and Christina, we're finally there. But this is kind of who we are. Like I say, we're formerly the Podunks, and we changed our name in 2016 just because we're trying to expand out into the area. We've been a nonprofit club from 2007 and been associated with IMBA for the whole time, and we got about 114 members, and we already did the mission statement, so I'll skip that one. Some of our history from 2017 to 2012, we've received 10 RTP grants, totaling a little over $500,000, $538,000. We've completed 7 of those, and 3 of them are still active. We work with Washoe County Parks, City of Reno, and Washoe County, maintaining, building, and connecting trails and trailheads. You can see the other groups that deal with trails in the area. We've been doing that. And since 2007, we've built approximately 29 miles of new trails, rerouted or enhanced about 11.5 of old trails, and we maintain about 48 miles of trails in the Peavine and Sierra Vista area. And since then, we've contributed over 10,106 hours in today's volunteer rates. That's a little over $303,000 in maintenance and cleanup into the community. And you can see the volunteer hours that we have put in since 2017 there. Had a little bit of dip during the COVID years, but we're starting to pick up. And some of the things we've been doing in the last couple of years. With COVID, you guys probably, with Parks and Open Space, saw a huge increase in usage, especially on Peavine. We actually got with the county, the Forest Service, and City of Reno, and made a volunteer directional use of the trails, which actually worked about 70% of the time. So it actually worked pretty good. Besides decreasing exposure, it also decreased the amount of damage you were getting from the trails from people stepping off the trails to pass. So that worked pretty well. The Keystone Canyon washout, which Kevin helped do that through an RTP funds. There's a large washout in Keystone Canyon, and we're able to fill that in, and it's working out really well. We've rebuilt up on Peavine the Stagecoach Trail, which Kevin helped out on, and also Steve Wentz. But anyway, using it from a very seldom used trail to a really nice modern flow trail. A little bit more work to do on it, but it's one of the most popular trails up there at present. The Las Barisas and Sierra Vista Connector Trail. We built a bike park in Sierra Vista Park, which I got to give Kevin Joel the credit for actually making that park possible. But we've interconnected the park from the City of Reno through City of Reno open space into the Forest Service and the Forest Service trail network up on Peavine. It's about 3.5 miles. And continue to do Peavine trail maintenance. We did from the, was it 2 years ago with the fire we had up there, we did quite a bit of trail restoration from bulldozer damage and things. Worked out pretty well. Kevin helped out with that. We continue to do sign upgrades up on Peavine. Some of them burned, but it's a pretty good, easy to use signage system, and we continue to maintain that. In the last couple of years, we put in 9 kiosks at the trailheads on Peavine and the Forest Service trailheads, both motorized and non-motorized, and we used Nevada OHV mapping to help us out with that. Turned out actually quite nicely. Recently put in a drop zone up at Sierra Vista Park. That's just where you can practice up a progressive dropping and building skills on bikes. And just this spring, we did the UNR Downhill Trail, which was it's a system trail, but it was kind of user created. That was eroding pretty badly, and we brought it into new standards and sustainability, and a really fun thing to ride. And Sierra Vista Park, we put in a pump track and also a alternate line to an advanced flow line with a little bit bigger jumps, but the pump track's being really utilized by a lot of the kids in the area. So that's been a great project. Some of the current projects we're working on here, actually I've got those almost by slide. One is, I just met with the Forest Service yesterday, going over about 12.9 miles of new trails up in the northeast section of Peavine that interconnects like Raleigh Heights and the Horizon Hills, and has trails that go up into the rest of the Peavine Trail Network. So we're just trying to get the approval to do that through the NEPA process. Sierra Vista Phase 2, that's another RTP program. We got about $25,000 to put additional trails and features in at Sierra Vista Park, which will be starting on here next month. This is the Tamarack Lake Trail Extension Planning. Actually, Kevin will be working on helping us do the corridors, connecting the existing Tamarack Trail back down into Galena Creek Park. This will be the only, basically, mountain bike trail that gives you access from the Truckee Meadows up into the Tahoe Basin. It'll be pretty fun. It'll take a couple of years, but it'll be a great trail. And one of the future projects that we hope to get done via this agreement is up on Rancho San Rafael is the Reno Vista Trail, is to rebuild that into a quality trail program, or not a trail program, excuse me, a flow trail, a modern flow trail. And we're pleasantly putting in for a grant with the Pennington Foundation for that, for funding. And with that, I really thank your support, and I'm really happy to be here and looking for approval. Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And I just wanted to close by mentioning, Washoe County, we have a longstanding working history with several nonprofits in the area. So we work with, Keep Truckee Meadows Beautiful, Nevada Land Trust, Great Basin Institute, Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation, Reno Food Systems, Silver Arrow Bowman, the Mayor Breedham Society. So we have many agreements with nonprofits to really help create programs that the county can benefit from, and the citizens of the area benefit from as well. So we're hopeful that you can see the benefit in this, formalizing this relationship with the Biggest Little Trail Stewardship, and that we can have them assist with some of our trail maintenance, construction, and repair needs. And are there any questions?
Thank you, Colleen. Any questions?
This is Commissioner Dake. How do you get the word out to the community? You're looking for specific volunteers for a specific time and place. What's your advertising medium?
We mainly use social media. We have a Facebook page. We also have an email system. We're looking at new ways of doing that too, to get the word out a little bit more. And we're always open to suggestions too. It's a challenge.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Any other questions? I just have a general on liability. I read the clauses in here, but they're pretty general. And is there a insurance policy in place that your volunteer group has to indemnify the county for any mishaps that occur on any trails that you're building?
Actually, if you look at the way it's written, and actually we had our lawyer review that, Well, we're building trail. We do carry our own insurance, but once this county accepts the trail, it's
Okay.
basically the county's trail.
Okay.
Yeah, in most organizations, like a volunteer organizations, you can't expect us to take the liability for a trail that once it's been built to acceptable standards by the county, and that went through legal, so it's a nice way to do that.
And who's reviewing that, Colleen, in terms of acceptance of the trails?
Well, it would be our, Christina is our Trails Program Coordinator, and so she would be our subject matter expert on that. And we would be reviewing any type of trail construction or maintenance needs together, and we would ensure that those elements or whatever it is that was going to get built was built to the standards that we agreed upon.
Okay, thank you.
And that is lined out in the agreement as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Is there any public comment?
We do have one person on Zoom. Just a reminder to use the raise hand icon if you wanted to comment. No, no public comment.
No public comment? Seeing no public comment, then I'll open it up if any commissioners want to make a motion on this item.
Yes, this is Commissioner Dake. I'll make that motion to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners to approve an agreement between Washoe County and the Biggest Little Trail Stewardship for the construction and maintenance of trails within Washoe County open spaces and regional park system. I think it was the Tamarack network into Galena Forest, and that sold me. I think I like what you're doing on Peavine and expanding down in the south end of the county and the valley. I like what you're doing. I'd like to see it continued.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This is Lisa Rhodey. I'll second.
Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate it. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none. Those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 I hear 3.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you very much. Thanks for the presentation, Chuck. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. Item number 10 then is the discussion of topics and possible approval of a joint meeting with City of Reno Recreation and Parks Commission, City of Sparks, Parks and Recreation Commission, and Washoe County Open Space Regional Park Commission to be held on February 21, 2023 from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at McKinley Arts and Culture Center Auditorium. Is there, Eric's giving the staff presentation.
Sure. For the record, Eric Crump with Washoe County's Community Services Department. Not so much a presentation, but the way this agenda item is styled, this is where we had mentioned during the last meeting, and it was requested to agendize a possible joint meeting with the City of Reno, City of Sparks, and Washoe County's respective park commissions. Through staff, we've determined that February 21st at 6 p.m. at the McKinley Arts and Culture Center works out for all the respective commissions. Should you want to attend and approve of this meeting, this is your ability to do so. And then staff is obviously looking for any possible discussion items you want to make sure we try to get on the agenda.
Before we start that, let me ask legal, what if we don't have a quorum?
At that meeting in February, if you don't have a quorum, then the county side wouldn't be able to do any action or discuss amongst each other. But you could discuss the items just as commissioners with the City of Sparks and City of Reno. It would get a little weird.
Yeah.
So I'd highly recommend just having a quorum there.
Yeah. But the reason I bring it up is because it's an important meeting and we need to have 5 people there. So not having 5, the meeting could still take place, but we could not do any business.
Right, I think that maybe would defeat the purpose of the meeting
Right.
if the purpose is to have some kind of joint action amongst all of the agencies.
All right, that's my question. Comments? Commissioners?
Well, I sent a couple items to Mr. Crump. Did you? I think you got those.
I did.
Do we talk about those more, or what, how do we?
I can share those if you'd like with the rest of the commission, or you can share them and discuss and
that'd be great.
Get some feedback from some of the other commissioners.
Okay.
Want me to share?
Sure.
Okay, 1 second. Let me get those up here. So Commissioner Joel had sent an email with a couple possible topics, or several possible topics. One is having potentially all 3 jurisdictions adopt modern trail standards. The other one is a discussion on the formation of a regional park district encompassing all 3 jurisdictions or consolidation of services agreement. Another would be determining the interest in creating a dedicated funding source for the acquisition and preservation of open space parcels. I believe that is it.
Thank you. Any comments on those, or just leave it at that for now, I guess? I have a couple that I'd like you to consider, but not necessarily. I don't want to make the agenda huge, because the other entities will also have their agenda items, so we're going to have to narrow it at some point. But updates on the major park projects or additions by all the agencies. Because we've done our master planning process. They've all done master planning processes. It'd be nice to know who is doing what, when, and where in terms of immediate projects, at least in the next couple of years. And those projects obviously would have some funding attached to them, where they'd just be part of the master plan still. The other thing would be any cooperative agreements by agencies for maintenance. And I'll use Golden Eagle as an example. Do we still maintain that park out there?
We maintain the trailhead.
The trailhead, right.
Yeah, behind Golden Eagle.
And that's an example of what I'd like to have some discussion on, of developing a cooperative agreement with, for example, in that case, City of Sparks, to maintain their maintenance staff is there every day. And it's a long way for our guys to go. So it'd be nice to see if there's any ability to cooperate across boundary lines, because there really are no boundary lines in Washoe County. So.
Yeah, and that led to, or that exact type of situation led to my suggestion of the, whether it's a regional park district that I know the city did a bill draft request on, but my understanding is that was just the city. And I really feel that it needs to be, to really take advantage of the cost savings to the taxpayer, it needs to be all 3, like a regionalization of park services. So we're not doing this kind of driving past one park to take the lawnmower to another park. And I didn't realize that we did maintain part of Golden Eagle when Sparks already has maintenance crews there probably daily. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
There's a lot of cross traffic, a lot of trucks crossing one another, but for many parks throughout the area, not just that one. When we, Council, we can have open discussion on this, right?
Yes, it says on the agenda, discussion of topics.
When we looked at the park district before, there was a lot of involvement, at least discussion amongst the 3 agencies about how that would work and whether there was the ability to make it happen. And there was, I know Karen led the effort, Karen and Julie Conway led the effort. It'd be nice to resurrect that to see if anybody still has appetites to go down that direction.
My thought on that was like that we form a working group that would be like a staff member, maybe a commissioner, and then like a community stakeholder from each agency or each jurisdiction, and get that working group together with like, hey, let's sit down and talk about how can we make this happen.
Okay. Any other items that commissioners may have that they'd like to see discussed at that meeting?
If I may, Chair.
Go ahead.
Kind of along the same veins of this cooperative agreement, staff has identified several parcels that can be potentially swapped between City of Reno, Washoe County. The Palra Trailhead's a great example of that. The City of Reno actually owns some open space adjacent to Rancho San Rafael's open space up in the canyon. That makes some sense. There's some smaller parcels that Washoe County owns that are within the City of Reno. Moana open space there on Moana is a great example of this. So staff has been discussing potential land swaps. Horseman's Park is another one that's been maintained by the City of Reno since the early 60s, but is still owned by Washoe County. So there are cooperative agreements in place, but cleaning up the actual ownership of those parcels is something we could certainly contemplate as well.
Well, what do you see as, I'm sorry, what do you see as the way to get to a more concise agenda that we can actually handle in 2 hours? Is that something that you need to meet with the two heads of the other departments, the City of Reno and City of Sparks, and kind of narrow the field a little bit, because they're going to come up with their own suggestions, and what we just laid out amongst us, that's a lot to talk about in 2 hours.
Yeah. So the plan is, and that's why we've tried to get to you all early to get that information. Each of kind of our respective colleagues at City of Reno, City of Sparks are doing the same. You know, we're hopeful they're going to come up with maybe some of the same list. Historically, I think if you look at the agendas, we only usually have 2 to 3 kind of heavy items. You know, if we're talking park districts and forming a working group, that's how our smoke-free parks was created. It came out of a joint commission and a working group that worked on that for probably close to a year, if not longer. So, you know, the joint commission, I think there's a really good opportunity for staff to provide updates in terms of what's currently going on, and then maybe 1 or 2 big items. And so what we can do is they're asking their respective park commissions as well. We'll come back with, this is kind of where we've landed based on hearing that, and be able to get that in front of you before the February meeting, which is great.
Is this going to be structured as a joint meeting between the 3 agencies, or a joint workshop between the 3 agencies? I mean, it's kind of the same, but different in many ways.
Historically, we've done it as a joint meeting, but it's kind of the discretion of the respective commissions.
From a legal perspective, open meeting law still applies.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to call it a workshop, feel free, or a meeting, it's whatever. I think also, if the commission doesn't want to have, I don't recall the schedule, but if there is a February meeting, it could count for the February meeting, but I don't recall whether there is.
But this is, we do have a January meeting.
Oh, it's the January meeting, okay.
Yeah.
We should have a December and January, a couple meetings.
So would this replace the March first Tuesday in March meeting, or would this be a separate additional meeting?
Right now, what's kind of being recommended, this would be just a separate additional meeting. If you wanted to cancel the March meeting, you certainly can. Remember, you only are required to have 4 now per year. So.
And that would be 3 in the first 4 months. So.
Right.
We're good for the rest of the year.
All right.
One other thing that I kind of thought of today is, seeing like the need for an additional dog park in the South Reno area. There's been multiple developments that have been approved recently. I think one of them was a Washoe County, but the remainder are City of Reno. And how does the Planning Commission know that there is a shortage of places for people to go to recreate when they're approving a development? So I'm thinking to myself, the one that was just approved across from TMCC, perhaps maybe the City Planning Commission could have said, hey, we've got a shortage in this area. We're not going to approve this unless you can figure out how to make this happen, either part of your project or you acquire some nearby property or go in jointly with someone else and help make this happen. Because like, I mean, we keep having this influx of housing and people, and they want and they need things to do and to be able to have these things in their neighborhoods. And I guess just to have a conversation amongst all three agencies of like, how can we improve that process?
Yeah, and I can't speak to the City of Reno or the City Sparks process. In terms of Washoe County, that falls under kind of plan review and conditions of approval, and we are part of that process. When I say we, there are park staff that review and make conditions on certain developments, whether they're parks, whether they're trailheads, whether they're connection. It depends on where it is located, the densities and what opportunities there are. And you'll see, I mean, most of our parks were created in that sense, with the exception of the regional parks, were typically purchases of, larger historic kind of ranches. But most of our trailheads, most of our trail systems that run through private property that are either easements or parcels are conditions of that approval. And they're products of that process.
Does Washoe County get to review or comment on applications from other agencies? So for example, like a development next to a regional park that would have an impact on that park, would they have any power to require improvements to that park to serve those future residents?
Power, no, but we do supply comments as adjacent property owners. So anytime there's a City of Reno development that's adjacent to Washoe County, much like any other property owner, we have the ability to make comments, but we wouldn't have the ability to condition that.
Gotcha.
And we got to be careful not to get too specific here on individual items. So I think the comment that you made about looking at the master planning structure of all three agencies and how they communicate with each other to come up with a plan that works for everybody. I mean, Washoe County residents are City of Reno residents in many cases.
Right.
So
most people don't even know whose jurisdiction the park they're visiting may fall under.
And it really shouldn't make a difference.
Right.
In my opinion, it shouldn't. But and you're right. That people that come to visit the area, they have no clue. And they it's nice to be able to have the three agencies have a willingness to get together and talk about it. So that's great. Any other? After all this discussion, any other comments, items that Eric could take to the other agencies? Okay. Is there any public comment on this item?
No, there's not.
None? Hearing none? All right. And there's no motion to be made?
It is for possible action, and the possible action is to approve the joint meeting on the proposed date.
Oh, okay. Thank you. There is a motion to be made.
I'll go ahead and make the motion. I move to approve that a joint meeting be held between City of Reno, Recreation and Parks Commission, City of Sparks, Parks and Recreation Commission, and Washoe County Open Space and Regional Park Commission to be held on February 21st, 2023 from 6 to 8 p.m. at McKinley Arts and Culture Center Auditorium.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any other comments from commissioners? Hearing none, a call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Eric. Okay, we did 10. All right, item 11, final report for Dragon Lights Reno 2022. Colleen.
Okay, for the record, Colleen Wallace-Barnum, Park Operations Superintendent. So Dragon Lights Reno 2022, very successful overall. We're excited to provide you some statistics. And I wanted to, I have the pleasure today of having Luke Sorensen. He's our new horticulturalist, and he has been working at the May Arboretum and Botanical Gardens since June 6th. He worked for 1 week before Dragon Lights setup came in, so he got to see everything from start to finish, which was really good. So just to give you a quick background, I'm going to have him do the majority of the presentation, but I just wanted to give you a background since I was involved in the beginning of the agreement. We had a three-way agreement between Washoe County, Tianyu Arts and Culture, and the May Arboretum Society. And that was accepted by the Board of County Commissioners on December 10th of 2019. It was a 5-year agreement, so it actually was for 2019 through 2023. So we are in year 4 of that agreement. Tianyu Arts and Culture, per the details of the agreement, was responsible for the majority of the logistical details. That includes marketing, ticket sales, parking, staffing, daily cleanup, that kind of thing. And we agreed that the revenue split would be a 90-10 split for the first $1 million earned in revenue, and then it would be 85-15 on any revenue over $1 million. And we were happy to know that we went over the $1 million into July. We started getting into the million, so we were getting a higher split much quicker. We actually never met the million in the 2018 show. So. This is just an example. If actually, I wanted to find out, can I ask the question of how many commissioners were able to attend? Did anybody come to the meeting or come to Dragon Lights? Okay, at least the 3 that are here. Anybody virtually who was able to attend?
Yes. It's Commissioner Dake. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Great. And then anybody else? Okay. Well, I'm glad. Next year, we will get you free passes. So we'll make sure that happens. That was a little bit of a lag in getting some of those VIP passes, but we'll make sure that happens for next year. However, the money that you spent, a portion of the proceeds went to the May Arboretum Botanical Garden. So I'm going to let Luke take it from here. He created the presentation and can kind of go over how the festival went for this year. Come on up, Luke.
Why, hello, my name is Luke, and as you already know, Dragon Lights, as who I can attest that it was very successful. The festival did start on June 13th. That's when the setup came, and that's when, as well as the online ticket sales went into effect as well. And so during the 2 weeks of the setting up of the event itself, there's quite hustle and bustle and everything like that. And so on the last day of June, June 30th, that's when the county and the officials of the county were able to come and do a little preview night. July 1st through July 19th were the actual days of when the festival was in effect in the Reno area, which was a total of 44 days. And there was one day where there was weather permitting, so it rained, and so we had to cancel everything. But there's 2 additional days that were requested from Tianyu to extend the festival, which was very beneficial. So on the next graph, we can see that the total attendance was 94,000, which was a lot more than what it was in 2018. The average day was just over 2,000 people, and the highest attendance was towards the end of the festival on August 12th, which was just under 4,000. And, this was pretty obvious that the lowest attendance was on the 4th of July. I mean, I'd rather see fireworks than dragon festivals. But, as we can see how it's pretty obvious that the weekend was a little more highly attended rather than the weekdays. So that is one thing to take into consideration. During the festival, at the very beginning, was a more interactive area. So instead of going through and seeing all the lights and the lanterns, this was where you could get food. You can see more interactive, like where your Chinese calendar birth month was as well. The revenue was significant, as we can see that we brought in just $1.8 million. The first million, we earned 10%, and the second half of the million, we earned just 15%, which totaled to be $233,000. And the additional revenue was also brought in from vendors as well as donations. The revenue that was brought about from the Dragon Lights event was given to the May Arboretum in the donation account. And this donation account, we use it for maintenance, equipment, buying of species of plants and materials. As we continue on, some of the lanterns had more of a interactive feel where this dragon right here was going up and down as if he was hatching out from an egg. There were some individuals who would put their heads in the rotating clamps as well as their kids, which made me realize that I need to be a better parent. And so what happened was, for such a big event like this, it does need to have some repercussions. And so with it, it took a toll on the Arboretum staff. There was just under $7,000 in staff time spent in enabling this event to be managed as well as prepared, as well as the cleanup too. So it was irrigation supplies, fertilizer, anything that you can think about with the garden. We used it and built it to TNU. There's about $64,000 in hardscape damages based on equipment used within the Arboretum, and it totaled just under $80,000. There was also some vandalism that was not correlated with any expenses, such as carving names into bark or picking flowers, things like that, which was kind of hard to associate a cost with it. As we can look at the overhead costs, this is the revenue that was generated from the ranch house, gardens, as well as the picnic areas. And as we can see, in 2018, when Dragon Lights first came into Reno, we had a significant loss of revenue as far as the average rentals that we usually do within the county. But this is very significant, where we see in 2019, the public did recognize the benefits of this park, and there was a huge increase on revenue from, averagely of $33,000 to now $46,000. In comparison with one another, the attendance, we did have a little bit more active days of this event, which enabled us to gain more revenue as well as more publicity in the Reno community. The average take home was almost completely double than what it was back in 2018. So when it first came here, most people thought it was more of a one-time event rather than a 6 to 5 week long. So this enabled a community of Washoe County to understand that, hey, this is what it is, and it brought more word back to the community. We also think that since COVID, people were more antsy to get out. They were very wanting to be part of the community again. With it, we did understand that we did learn some things. We learned a new trailhead for the park, how it went around. So there's a better flow, better organization as well. And it did minimize the mitigation efforts for the park. Although we do have to say that every year we do this, the more and more we're able to understand the needs of the plants as well as what we can do to prepare. Because, these plants, the Arboretum is essentially a place for a living museum. And so we do have to take into account that it's really also a public place as well as a place to preserve precious plants for this area. And as Colleen said, the Dragon Lights will be coming back in 2023, the same time period in midsummer. We will be considering moving it a little bit later around balloon festivals and things like that, just because it's a little bit easier on the plant material. We also want to give a good thanks to everyone that was involved in the planning, the execution, and the overall cleanup of the event. It is quite the hassle. There was many individuals from not only the county, but the private company itself and a nonprofit organization called the May Arboretum Society. It is really well attended. I really support the Dragon Lights event as long as it is maintained properly. And if there's any questions, I'd like to hear them now, and I can hopefully answer them.
Great report, thank you. And I haven't welcomed you yet to the staff.
Thank you.
We haven't had that many meetings. Welcome. Any comments from commissioners? Questions?
I have a question, clarification on the slide that talked about the loss of revenue. So like I didn't quite understand that. Was that other park reservations that went down during the first?
You
Since Dragon Lights need the entire park, we booked out the reservations just for Dragon Lights. So no one in the county was able to reserve the picnic area or the ranch house or gardens.
But then in subsequent years, like I saw the graph go back up. So in subsequent years, you did allow coexisting events?
So Dragon Lights have only been here in 2018 and 2022. So in 2019, they did not return. And so that's why there's more revenue in that area.
Gotcha.
And then I think if you look at that graph, the garden reservations more than doubled.
Right.
Which is pretty, so obviously there was greater recognition, like that number is double the amount of garden rentals than it was in 2017. So perhaps, Dragon Lights Reno, right, people coming to the Arboretum, recognizing it as a place, hey, I could do my wedding here, because that's what we mostly do in the garden rentals. It became very popular in 2019. So I think it's just important for us to recognize that there is a revenue loss when we do an event like this, right? It affects that park and all of the facilities associated with the ability to rent any of those facilities. So we do lose some revenue, but if you look at the revenue loss of all those facilities versus what we gained, right, significant difference. We gained a lot more than we lost.
But it is a good marketing ploy to have events like that because it brings recognition to the park. And that's where you're saying you're getting the additional revenue is people are recognizing the full use of the park that they could have for other events.
Correct.
Yeah, and then I wanted to clarify on the overhead costs. So Tianyu is paying for all of this. We invoiced them for all of these costs because it was all associated with the event itself. And because we had that 90-10 split, in theory, all of any type of damage, really should have been covered by the company, and they are paying for all of those costs. So just so you know.
So it's not coming out of the profits that you got out of the
No.
event? Okay. Any other comments? Questions? From the first year that they came into this year, what a change.
30,000 more people.
Increase, yeah. And so I didn't understand what you were saying earlier, though, about in terms of the timing of the event. You're going to you're going to move it slightly into the fall?
So it's a negotiation, like we would like it to be in the fall, but it's based on the two parties of being able to understand which one would be the most beneficial.
Okay.
So for 2023, it'll be the same time frame. It'll be the July and August dates, but we're hoping to negotiate in the future in the fall months. It's less wear and tear on the plants, and knowing that we have a living museum, it's important to keep that collection intact. And really, we had a 4-year break from 2018 to 2022. So if we were to potentially do this event every year, right, that impact could potentially get even greater on the plant material, and that's what we're concerned about. And we feel that a fall time would be better based on the plants.
Now, my only concern there is the impact on staff, because you got a lot of events backing up to each other in the fall. The races, the balloon races, et cetera. You don't see that as being detrimental to the staffing needs that you might?
It would be after balloon races. So
Okay.
it would, we'd wait until after balloon races, and then we would probably encourage the event maybe through, middle of September through the end of October.
Okay.
Maybe a 6 weeks. They would love to be there for 3, 6, 9 months if we would let them, but there's only so much we can really manage, I think, and I think that time frame is pretty good. And then the impact of not being able to reserve a lot of those facilities in the summer months, that's an impact on the community. That's a beautiful park. People like to have their family picnics and their weddings, and not being able to do that year after year every summer, that's going to be tough for people. So I think wanting to also make sure we're acknowledging all the different uses.
Well, I think there'll be a visual impact too, because there's fewer daylight hours in the fall, so the lights will show brightly in the hours and days that you're talking about. So.
And I do want to make a comment on the benefit of the community, even though, or the absence of the community, even though the Dragon Lights is restricting the area for Washoe County to reserve. I noticed almost half of all the people who attended Dragon Lights were out-of-state plates. So it's just one more thing to consider, like, is it the benefit of the community here?
Yeah, I think we could potentially get some statistics from Tianyu. I'm not sure what those stats are, but they would keep those demographics, I'm sure, through their ticket sales. We could find that out.
How many other cities do they do this festival in?
All over the country.
Okay.
I mean, she named 3 in California that they're doing in a month. So they're going to be in Los Angeles, Oakland, and Fresno, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Any other comments? All right. Any public comments? None. Thank you both very much. Great report. Good job. Thank you. All right. Item 12, park reports.
I think I'm going to leave it if there's any questions. I know this has been a longer meeting, so does anybody have any questions about the park reports?
I don't see any here. Do you?
I have a question, but it probably could be, well, I don't know. I guess it would fall under this. Can we apply one of the placeholder grants to the Conserve Nevada program for the dog park at South Valley's Regional Park, or at least planning for it, design and planning for it?
So I think the way I think we may have put, and I don't think it was through Conserve Nevada, but we put forth a pre-application, and I think it might have been for the build out of South Valley's, which would include the dog park. Okay. So it's the next phase of build out. But let me confirm that for you and get back with you.
Okay, because those are the ones they're just looking for placeholders right now to find out what the demand is.
Yeah, I believe we put in probably 35 pre-applications. We put a bunch in.
Okay, so, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioners on Zoom, any comments, questions?
No comments.
Okay, thank you. It's as a comment of my own, it's hard to tell. I think you're still there, but it's hard without the faces up there to see. So forgive me if I keep asking. It gets difficult at times. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all right. I have a bandwidth problem, so if I'm on video, it starts to get a little bit of a bad connection.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Any comments? None? We don't need public comment on this.
Not on that item, no.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Colleen. Director's report.
Thank you again. Eric Crump, for the record, Washoe County's Community Services Department, and Assistant County Manager Solaro sends his apologies for not being able to attend, but he's in training today. So just a few updates. The Board of County Commissioners, some of the actions they took during their September 13th meeting. They approved a water rights exchange agreement between Washoe County, City of Sparks, and First Tee of Northern Nevada as the intended beneficiary to continue the delivery of roughly 199 acre feet of effluent to Wild Creek Golf Course. So there was an agreement, a 20-year-old or 25-year-old agreement that was in place that recently expired, and this is kind of a continuation to make sure Wild Creek gets delivered nearly 200 feet of effluent. They also accepted a grant in the amount of a little over $407,000 from the Nevada Department of Wildlife. This is for our regional archery facility, and this grant will help. We'll be putting in a vault or pit toilet there, creating some ADA compliant parking, and then make some other general improvements throughout the facility as well. And then during the October 25th board meeting, the board took action to actually appoint Commissioner Alexis Hill to be liaison to this commission. And I'm not sure if she's on still. I know she was on for a little bit. But she is now the liaison to the Washington County Open Space and Regional Parks Commission. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, commissioners? Okay, thanks, Eric. All right. Last item is commission requests for future agenda items. Are there any topics that people would like to see on future agendas? I will indicate that on the January meeting, there will be an election of officers for the commission. So that will be on that meeting, correct? Denise?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, this is Alexis Hill. I just wanted to say I'm so thrilled to be your liaison on the Parks and Open Space Commission. You're doing amazing work, all of you, and I really appreciate all the vetting you do before things come to the board, and I can't wait to learn some more. I'm sorry I'm not on camera. I'm with my daughter, and she's a little crazy right now. So, but I did... I was wondering if it would be appropriate, and I don't think that there's like any, it's not necessary that it needs to be on like a urgent agenda topic, but just to learn a little bit more about park escrow accounts and how those work. And my understanding is we have some in my district, and I just would like some overview, and I don't know if the board has had a presentation on that, but that would be something that I would be asking for in the future. And again, really looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I see staff nodding their heads, so we can get that on a future agenda for you. Thanks for being at the meeting.
My pleasure.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing none. Last time's public comments. Are there any public comments?
No public comment.
And there's nobody in our audience for public comments, so that's good to know. Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.